fool. It's done. The deals are sealed. Not if I expose you first.
You know, looking back on that day, I can still feel the chill run down my spine when my stepbrother, Brandon, leaned over my dad's desk, really and smirked like he'd just won the lottery, telling me I had exactly 7 minutes to pack up and get out or security would drag me away like yesterday's trash. I mean, there I was, Jasmine Hayes, the girl who'd poured her soul into turning Hayes Innovations from a scrappy Atlanta tech startup into a billion-dollar powerhouse in medical AI. And now this smug fool was waving some emergency board vote in my face, claiming Dad's will named him the sole heir. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst right through my ribs. 5 years of blood, sweat, and no sleep flashing before my eyes, the late nights coding algorithms that could predict heart failures before they happened, the partnerships I'd built with hospitals across the country, the programs I'd started to train young black women in STEM, all of it slipping away because of some paper that looked too perfect, dated right when Dad was in that coma he never woke up from. I sat there, frozen, staring at that folder as my stepmom, Lorraine, sauntered in with her signature venomous grin, all pearls and power suits, tossing out how I'd never been meant to run this place anyway, how Dad's real instructions made it clear Brandon was the one with the visionia, as if that kid could code his way out of a paper bag. The air in the room felt thick, suffocating, like the walls were closing in, and I kept thinking, this can't be real, not after everything I'd sacrificed, the way I'd honored Dad's dream of using tech to save lives, not just make money. But there they were, gloating, planning to gut the company, scrap the community health initiatives, turn it into some profit-churning machine without a soul. And then, just as security guys I'd hired myself, whose kids I'd helped with scholarships shuffled and looking ashamed, I stepped on something crunchy under my heel, glanced down, and there was Theo, the quiet night shift cleaner I'd barely noticed before, on his knees sweeping up broken glass from a frame that must have fallen in the commotion. Our eyes locked for a split second, and there was this spark, like he knew something I didn't, something big, and sure enough, as he muttered, "Careful, mess. Hayes, wouldn't want you getting hurt on your way out." His hand brushed my shoe, slipping me this tiny USB drive that felt like a lifeline in that moment of chaos. I slipped it into my pocket without a word, heart racing even faster now. As Lorraine snapped about time being up, her voice dripping with fake sympathy, and Brandon checked his fancy watch like he was late for a golf game. Walking out of that building, box of memories in my arms, Dad's old photo from when he started the company in our garage, the first prototype AI device we'd built together, letters from patients whose lives our tech had saved. I caught Theo in the lobby, pushing his cart, and he mouthed, "Basement garage, level 3, 1 hour," before vanishing like a ghost. The sun hit my face outside, but inside I was a storm, everything I'd built stolen, Dad's legacy twisted, but that drive in my pocket burned like a promise. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. An hour later, down in that dim garage, my heels echoing off the concrete like gunshots, I waited by my old SUV, paranoia creeping in. Had they followed me? Were there cameras everywhere? The service door creaked open, and out stepped Theo, no uniform now, just jeans and a hoodie that showed off his broad shoulders, standing tall like the soldier he turned out to be, no slouch in sight. "You came," he said, voice deep and steady, like he'd expected nothing less, and I kept my distance, hand near the mace in my bag, asking what was on that drive. "Proof," he replied, hands up like he knew I was spooked. "But first, you gotta know who I am, not some random cleaner, but Theo Ramirez, ex-Marine Intel, and your dad's old buddy from way back." He pulled out this faded photo, him as a kid with Dad in uniform, grinning in some dusty base in a rock. Turns out Dad had pulled strings after Theo's father, Sergeant Ramirez, got killed in action, paying for Theo's college when the VA dragged its feet, giving his mom a job at the company when she was drowning in grief. I stared at that picture, seeing the resemblance in their eyes, that same fierce protectiveness, and it hit me like a wave. This wasn't random. This was family, or as close as it gets without blood. Theo explained how he'd gotten the janitor gig 3 months ago, blending in, ears open during those late-night meetings when Lorraine and Brandon thought no one was listening, recording their plots to sell off our AI tech to shady overseas buyers, not for medicine but for surveillance, twisting Dad's work into something dark. And the worst part? Dad didn't die of that heart attack. Everyone claimed Theo had tracked down a nurse who'd gone into hiding, spilling how it was poison, a fancy synthetic that fakes cardiac arrest, undetectable unless you know what to look for. My knees buckled right there in that garage, the world spinning, because I'd suspected, hired investigators, but hearing it confirmed Dad murdered, his company about to be auctioned off to the highest bidder, tech that could save lives now potentially spying on innocents. It was too much, rage and grief mixing like fire and ice in my chest. But Theo wasn't done. He laid it out, how Lorraine wasn't who she seemed, born in Eastern Europe, planted here years ago by some shadowy network to infiltrate American tech, marrying Dad after Mom passed not for love but access, building her web while Dad, bless his trusting heart, thought he could handle her. And me? I'd been played to me investigator, Carla, the one I'd confided in for years, crying on her shoulder about Dad's death. Turns out she was Lorraine's plant, feeding every doubt, every lead back to them, keeping me chasing shadows. When my phone buzzed with Carla's name, Theo warned me not to answer, but I did, voice steady as steel, confronting her right there, and oh, the venom that poured out her laughing, calling me naive like Dad, admitting it was revenge for some old business deal where Dad's company edged out her family's, leaving her dad broke and suicidal. Justice, she spat, for a man who deserved better. And then the threats started, photos popping up on my screen of us in the garage, faked records making Theo look like a criminal, her voice cheerful as she said it'd all be discredited by morning. Theo snatched the phone, smashed it, his face thunder, saying we had to move, sirens already wailing in the distance, and as we piled into his beat-up truck, leaving my life behind, I clutched that drive, mind reeling from the betrayals. But something shifted inside me, that numbness turning to fire. We drove into the night, him glancing over with that unreadable look, admitting this started as a promise to Dad, but now it was personal, and I thought, yeah, me too, personal as hell. The safe house was this cozy little spot outside the city, nothing fancy, just secure with deadbolts and blackout curtains. Theo explaining it was an old Marine habit, always have a backup plan. We poured over the drive that night, files upon files, audio of Lorraine scheming to sell our AI to Chinese firms for billions, videos of her tampering with Dad's meds in the hospital, financial trails showing how she'd forged the will, shredded evidence. My hands shook as I watched that footage, her face so calm as she added the poison to his four. No remorse, just efficiency, and I whispered, play it again, rage building until I stood, vowing to burn it all down, everything she loved. But Theo stopped me, gentle but firm, reminding me Dad built this on integrity. We couldn't become monsters to fight one. That's when the knock came, coded, and in walked Theo's mom, Dr. Maria Ramirez, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, a retired army doc with bags of gear, revealing she was the one who'd smuggled out Dad's tissue samples, proving the poison was some black market nerve agent. She hugged me like family, saying Dad had saved her son twice, once in battle, once with that scholarship, and now it was her turn to repay. But the bombshell? Lorraine's real name was Irina Volkov, tied to Russian oligarchs, her marriage a long con to steal Dad's tech, and Dadme's sweet, visionary Dad had been working with the feds all along, a quiet patriot feeding them intel on her network, keeping enemies close to protect me. He'd suspected at the end, called Theo overseas, but it was too late, she struck first. We planned over coffee that night, audacious stuff, fake identities, offshore funds Dad had hidden for me, a way to crash her big fundraiser where she'd seal the deals. I paced, doubts creeping in. How could I trust these strangers when everyone else had lied? But Theo's eyes held mine, saying I didn't have to, but Dad trusted his dad with his life. And that had to mean something, and damn if it didn't, that flicker of hope in the darkness. The training was brutal, days blurring into nights, Theo teaching me self-defense in the living room, moves to disarm, to blend in, while Dr. Maria drilled me on the poison science, building our case. I barely slept, nightmares of Dad's last days mixing with flashes of Carla's betrayal, her texts still haunting me. But we pushed on, identities ready, me as a European buyer, Theo as my guard. Then the test run at a gallery event, hearts pounding as we slipped past security, only to spot Brandon schmoozing investors, and worse, Carla arm in arm with Lorraine's contact, a slick operator named Victor. Close call. Carla handed me champagne, eyes narrowing like she saw through the wig, but we played it cool, her musing about inferior American bubbly, me snapping back an accent about Western weaknesses, tension thick as fog until Theo pulled me away, whispering we were blown, but not yet. Back at the safe house, a package arrived, me old necklace from Dad, with a note from Carla, a reminder of losses past and future. Walk away. Panic hit, but we stayed put, doubling down, until Lorraine struck hard, video calling with Dr. Maria tied up, bruised, demanding the drive, or else. We raced back, me slipping in the back while Theo distracted up front, chaos erupting, gunfire in the dark, sprinklers soaking us as I tackled Lorraine, her nails clawing, hissing, you fool, it's done, the deals are sealed. But we'd modified the AI, a backdoor I coded myself, turning her auction into a trap, exposing every buyer as the system pinged their locations to the feds. In the end, as agents swarmed, Lorraine in cuffs, her empire crumbling, she whispered how this imbalance would cost me. Power always does, but I stood tall. Company mine again, Dad's name cleared. 6 months on, Hayes Innovations thrives, focused on healing, not harm. Theo by my side, not just as security, but something more, our partnership real, forged in fire. Yet, whispers linger. Carla's out there, networks deeper than we knew, and I wonder, is victory ever final? What do you think, was justice served, or did power corrupt us all? Drop your thoughts below, share your own stories of betrayal and comeback. Hit subscribe if this hit home. We all in this messy world together.